Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching Holiday Edition. Justin, very festive today. If anyone's not on video, make sure you check it out. We've got Santa himself making an appearance on the show. Do you come bearing gifts today, Justin?
Yeah, Jake, I do. The gift of hope for the holidays and the gift that people gave us, honestly. So I want to give a quick shout out. I know we're usually a weekly podcast at this point. But last week we did not record. It's because we were focusing on our charity event, Hope for the Holidays, third annual, that we have now put on at the pitch. Huge thanks to the pitch, just caddy corner to Energizer Park for helping us out. So Jake, on Saturday, we hit our goal, and we are still climbing. So we do not have a final number yet in a positive way, but we hit our goal of over $50,000 and had an incredible time doing it.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Shout out to definitely a couple of you that we saw there. And for those that we didn't, saying hi now and thank you for your support because, yeah, it was awesome. It was cool. It was our first time kind of doing it this close to the holidays, which I know we were worried about, but we did it during the day as well. So had a little darty day party type atmosphere with the crew out there. And yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, 3 years down the road now, it's absolutely crazy. We've done three of those. And each year seems to be getting better as the total mentioned, Justin. Yeah, I mean, so we raised, I think, just over 40,000 in our first year, just over 50 this year, and sorry, last year. And this year we bypassed last year already. And our goal with this year was just to hit over 50 again. So we're getting some good company. It's been really, really cool to be a part of something this full of momentum with some great people around St. Louis. And we're surrounded by so many great organizations too, Justin. So many great sponsors and local organizations that care about the community and specifically care about head and neck cancer and treating at Siteman Cancer Center. So really powerful day. I was really proud of that.
Yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to our local organizations that gave. So Victory Men's Health, obviously Sitting the Blues, stepping up with their packages, but then Victory Men's Health, Series 6, and then so we got some local breweries, which a huge shout out to them. Urban Chestnut, Forehand, Schlafly, Second Shift, also had a gift card from BPV. So without them, we would not be able to do what we can do and create these awesome gift baskets for anybody that saw that we were scrolling kind of quicker. This local drink and recovery gift basket, over $800 in donations from those guys. So over 50 beers and experiences at these breweries. And then guess what? Once you drink it all, you can go to Victory Men's Health and get a nice hangover IV drip to get that recovery going. So huge shout out to all of our local vendors and to St. Louis, the Blues, City, Cardinals, everybody that's contributed. It was awesome. And a huge shout out to Tim Gaglin, just donating a over $1,000 bottle of Pappy Van Winkle to auction off as well. Again, we cannot do it without the listeners, without the community's help. So huge thank you to all of you.
Yeah, you know what I forgot, Justin? Yes, with Tim's donation, that's 2 years in a row now where a listener has given us a donation from either like the company they work for or just personally like Tim, because last year we got a wine experience, like a sommelier in-home experience for a certain party size from one of our listeners as well. So thank you to you all for being a part of it. And we'll have a lot more coming about final numbers and final impacts, our recap video shortly, but it's an amazing time. It's an amazing time. And this time of the year, we can kind of all reflect on how grateful we should be for what we've been given this year. And for those that may not have those same blessings, try to make an impact on their lives in one way or another. So a great segue into a very positive, uplifting holiday themed show for us, Justin.
Yeah, and Jake, I want to give one more quick shout out to our special guest, Mr. John O'Leary. For anybody that hasn't already seen the movie Soul on Fire, it's on Amazon. It's on Apple. I think it's only like $6 to rent. Good God. There was not a dry eye in the room with some of the stories that John was sharing. So if you guys don't know his story, from St. Louis, went to the Smet, went to SLU. When he was younger, he burned 100% of his body, gave less than 1% chance to live. And now he is just doing an incredible job, just kind of giving motivational speeches and just touching the hearts of people. So John did an incredible job. We cannot thank him enough for taking time to come out of his day, knowing that he was then hosting his own holiday party for 100+ people at his house that night. It just shows you the type of person that John O'Leary is. And we want to thank him very, very much for taking the time out of his busy schedule to come help us raise funds and awareness for the Head and Neck Cancer Society at Barnes-Jewish Hospital.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen John O'Leary and he's coming anywhere near your workplace or your home, I mean, he speaks so often, and locally a lot too. Make sure you go do it. I mean, the guy brought the house down and we gave him very little parameters and a little about what we wanted to do, and he took it and spun it into this beautiful piece of art. and a story that is just compelling and it makes you leave home wanting to do something about it. So again, yeah, shout out to John O'Leary as well. But Justin, in the theme of holidays and gift giving, we didn't really get the chance to do it because of just time last week and making sure we were squared off for hope for the holidays. But, last week we would have touched on what, ended up happening with SLU men's soccer. Hopefully none of you were holding your breath. But SLU did lose in the College Cup, or the Final Four, like that semifinal round, against NC State in Cary, North Carolina. What ended up being pretty much a home game for NC State fans. It was only a couple mile drive from the campus to Cary, North Carolina for this match. And they concluded their season 13-3-8 overall and ended their unbeaten streak of 14 games, having come from behind to win or tie in 8 of those 14. So again, talked about resilience as a key word of the SLU men's team, but it ended up not being enough. NC State gave us all we could handle and more. Really, really strong team. But we'll talk about the pride we still feel about this organization, this program, and the direction they're heading under Coach Kalish.
It's incredible, Jake. So, I mean, it was a tough end to the season for these guys. Obviously, Jeremy Abenell is continuing to rack up the accolades. Did not get drafted. We did not have one of the boys in. We had multiple of them available for the Super Draft, and none of them got drafted. Doesn't mean that their soccer careers are done by any means. You've seen that in plenty of the guys coming out of SLU, and then also just in stories in general. So, but if anything, it's going to tell you even more that how strong this team is going forward. That we still have a very youthful and strong group. I want to give a huge shout out again to Coach Kalish. He was at our Hope for the Holidays on Saturday, and we're able to bring him up on stage and thank you for everything that he did this year, because we don't have playoff soccer here in St. Louis now for 2 years running, and in a professional sense. But guess what? He was able to bring it for us and bring the Bills back into it. So a huge, awesome season to them. A tough ending, but it was awesome to see them get back to the College Cup for the first time since 1997, when Kalish was actually a player on the team.
Yeah, and there was so much turnover in this roster, right? They had so many freshmen, transfers as well. And to be able to integrate them all, it takes a long time to do so. It's not like you just step onto the field. And even if you're a good player, you just fit right away. We've seen that, right? Like you've seen guys that you go out, you acquire, and it might take some time to kind of bed in with the team. But what he was able to get this team to do in those high stakes, high pressure moments with so many new faces around is nothing short of incredible. And yeah, you've got to give your kudos to a coach like Kevin Kalish, because one, from a soccer mind perspective, he's got it, right? He's got these guys gelled. He's got them playing really, really well together. And from a cultural perspective, Justin, I just don't know how much better he could be doing, right? From a getting guys motivated, getting them playing for each other, never letting them get too low or too high, right? I mean, because you had some big highs in this tournament as well, but just to never be out of a game, that's something that not a lot of teams can boast. And this is something that SLU men's soccer can boast right now. And they've shown to the world and to this country that they will not be going away. And again, this was meant to be, I feel like, more of a transition type year for this program. So it gives you a lot of hope, right, of what they could be in a couple of years. And also people are seeing this, like SLU men's soccer at the College Cup. If I'm in high school or I'm in grade school and I'm wanting to go play at some point at that level, it might look very different by the time that I get there. But SLU has kind of pushed its name to the forefront of, I should be a school that you think about when you think about your top programs in the country, because we have the most national titles ever. And again, a lot of those, date back, many decades now, about 4 or 5, but we're doing it now. Come be a part of it. It's a revolution here with a lot of history and a lot of great foundations and great alumni network as well. So it's just, they're building the kind of like their selling point, right, Justin, too. Like they're doing, like they can do it now. They've done it before. Under this leadership, we can go places.
And it's honestly a huge shout out to Coach Kalish for that, because if you look at this, we have the individual talent. When you look at a guy like Jackson Delkus, who is the #1 recruit in the nation in 2024, he is continuing to just be like a role player for this team, and not saying that in a bad way. He is doing what he needs to get done in this team. He is coming on, putting in hard minutes off the bench when he starts. He is giving immediate action for these guys. Him, Theo Franca, and then you also got Jack DiMaria. Like a lot of these young guys are just fitting in and just saying, hey, Coach, whatever you need so that we can contribute and win as a team, we will do. And a huge shout out to Coach Kalish, because that's not something easy to do with these guys, right? It's easy to say, like, yeah, team first mentality, but these guys truly show it. So it was tough to see their road come to an end. Jake, just to quickly round out the D1 soccer year. Then NC State took on Washington in the national final. Washington took a 2-0 lead for NC State, got one back in 66, where Donovan Phillip, who we mentioned before, 17 goals in his season so far this year, scored and had an assist from the now number one overall pick, Nikola Markovic. Then they tied it again in the 87th to force OT. Absolutely electric. Everybody was on the edge of their seat. Remember, this is like a home game for NC State, just 5 miles down the road. Then Washington scored the golden goal just 2 minutes into overtime, and everybody just went silent. And these guys were just streaking across the field. It was pretty sad to see for NC State, but it was a star-studded game. There were 9 players in the field that were drafted in this year's MLS Super Draft. You had 5 from Washington and 4 from NC State, plus Donovan Phillip, who we already mentioned, who was drafted in 2024 by the Colorado Rapids, which we kind of talk about. There's some nuances to these drafts, and we'll mention this a little bit further down the line when we cover the draft here, but it's odd, right, that guys can get drafted, then go back to their college, because you don't see that in every sport. You think about the NBA, the NFL, things like that. So there was a total of 9 guys on that field. So star-studded match, awesome D1 college soccer season, and sad to see it come to an end.
Yeah, but hopefully, again, a sign of times to come for us here, because I really do feel like SLU embodies the city, right? Like we talk about, and everyone says the right things, right? I'll just put city in the limelight for a second. Everyone says, play like the city, blue collar, grassroots soccer, to its core. I feel like SLU, they could take a page from, right? Because I see myself in this team. I see our city in this team. I see how much pride they take in wearing the jersey and donning the crest and fighting for every inch on the pitch. And I just hope that we can see an integration of some of those principles over into the first team with City too. And you're hoping a guy like a new head coach could be just the one to do so. I think we might be in business here, Justin, as City announced last week, Yoann Damet as our next head coach. I know we're, late and right talking about this news, and you've probably seen a lot about it since then, but maybe we'll get into some new angles that you haven't heard so much about. But this, obviously he's French, with the name, born in Marseille and began coaching. He's a lifelong coach, I would say. At just a ripe age of 16, he went into coaching. It's not like he played for a long time and then went to coaching. This was a kid that wanted to coach. And that is so rare in today's age, but you hear about him, right? And he was in it early. He built his foundation coaching youth teams in France before moving to North America, and worked at some very prolific clubs and with some very, very successful coaches as well, which we'll talk about on his resume.
Yeah, I think his resume, Jake, kind of speaks for itself, and it is odd, right? But it shows his maturity and how much he loves soccer. Is when he was a young guy, he realized at the age of 16 that he was not going to make it pro. And he didn't just keep trying. He found a way to still make it pro, just not be the player. So what he did was, after he coached over in France, then he came over and he was CF Montreal Academy from 2014 to 2016. Youth coach there, really focusing on player development and tactical foundations. Sounds a lot like our new guy as well, Corey Ray. Then he went to FC Cincinnati from 2017 to 2021. He was the assistant coach, but also served as the interim coach twice. Something that we know very well how that's gone. And Jake, it was a rough time for him, not only for him at Cincy, but just Cincy as a whole, as a club. I just kind of threw this together as well. But in 2019, he did 12 matches, just 3 wins. And then 2020, he had a very short stint, so I don't think it's nothing notable there. But I don't want City fans to be like, oh, wow, this guy can't coach. Like, what was going on there? If you go back and look at what was going on in Cincinnati, it was a rough go for them during that time. So, but while he was there, he did make it an award. What do you want to say? Like a record books of being the youngest head coach in MLS history and to win a match. So even though he only had 3 wins, he was the youngest guy to ever do it. Then he went to the LA Galaxy 2 and the LA Galaxy in 2022. He was the head coach of the LA Galaxy 2 in the USL Championship there before joining the Galaxy first team staff and an assistant. And then he went to the Columbus Crew from 2023 to 2025. And you think that's where he has his connection with Corey Ray. He was assistant under Wilfred Nancy, contributing to a highly successful period, including the 2023 MLS Cup and the 2024 Leagues Cup. So this guy has kind of seen it all. If you were, and it really does remind me, Jake, we were looking into this, kind of the story that we talked about with Corey Ray. How he's kind of been around. He's been in he's gotten his hands dirty, gotten with the City 2, not with City 2, just the MLS Next Pro teams, all the 2 teams, working with their academies, and then working your way up to get that final chances. They're both getting right now at City.
Yeah, and along that journey, right? He worked with I think three really respected coaches at current state in MLS, which being Mikey Varas, who's at San Diego, and we had Greg Vanny at LA, and then you have obviously Nancy at Columbus, who's now at Celtic, and supposedly a reason for some of the delay getting him onboarded here was, or at least hired here, was because he had other offers, he had other suitors, and one of those, at least I've heard and I've seen, was that Celtic or Nancy specifically was part of his package, right? As being hired at Celtic in Scotland was for Damet to go with him and be a part of that. So, he's a sought after guy, and I agree with you, Justin. I think the lining between him and Ray is high ceiling, high potential, been in the room with, steady, powerful organizations at the peak of their powers, and is appreciated for their own skill set and their own mind by those that have actually been in like the pilot seat, I'll call it, right, during that time. So they've never been the guy, for a stretch of time, but they've earned the chance to be the guy. It was a matter of time, not if. And we are the one to give Damet his first go. I will say to the interim point there, Justin, people might have concerns. Like, we've had a lot of interim coaches recently. Bradley Carnell was an interim coach at the Red Bulls before coming to City, and he had 6 wins out of 14 games starting as their head coach during that interim period. So nothing huge to write home about. I don't really make much of an interim record. I think when you are the guy and the club trusts you and you've put pen to paper, and I would love, Justin, love to see what his term is they gave him on this contract. I'd be very, very curious. I think if you're City, you're investing in him. This isn't like a 1 year, let's see how you do type deal. And that's a broader thing you and I can talk about. But I think the club is pushing the chips in on Damet and Ray and saying, we're going to give them leash. We're going to give them time. We're going to give them resources, and we're going to see what they can do over a couple year stretch period.
I think that's absolutely what they're looking for here, Jay, because we don't have time to just, again, try another Olaf, right? Where you're just going to throw this guy in there and be like, oh, you get 7 games. We are now 0-6-1. You're out of here. So, and really, I don't think that would ever happen, that we are going to even have that bad of a record. But you got to give this time a reason to grow. Let's throw it all the way back to when Lutz was hired and say, we have a 5-year plan. I think now that you have these guys, we had a hard reset button. I also want to have a hard reset button on City expectations. Because if you think about how we did in the first season, I feel like our expectations have been through the roof, which is not fair to a club like this. Yes, it was an awesome run in our first season, but you're not going to see that consistently. We've seen that. And I wouldn't expect this bad of a downturn, but I also wouldn't expect us to now skyrocket just because we have new guys in office. So I do think that this is a This is a long-term deal with these guys, not only on contract, but also in the philosophy of the club.
Yeah, but and he's got some exciting, things about him. Like, let's talk about what we've seen or what we've heard about what he'll bring to the club. He's known as he's only 35, 34, mid 30s, which again, very, very young for a coach. He was the youngest ever head coach for MLS at the time when he was doing the interim job with Cincinnati. But he's known as a very modern, detail-oriented coach who kind of blends, like, think about Columbus, where they have structure, but players, when they know their structure, where they're supposed to be, they're given certain levels of flexibility. And teams that he's been the assistant coach for, you've seen trademarks of that high work rate, high intensity. It's not just a canvassed high press like we've seen like in year one of City, but very, very intentional and intelligent type pressing, very ingrained positional discipline in and around the pitch for the players that are on there, and comfort in possession, a very, very key part of what he brings to the table. This is a team that is not going to treat the ball like a hand grenade. They're going to be okay sitting on the ball sometimes, moving it around, forming little triangles and moving all over the pitch with the ball. The final thing I want to also say here too, Justin, because he talked a lot about it in his press conference, was his communication style. As a culture fit, sounds like a very personable human. It doesn't mean just nice guy. That means a guy that values and puts, stock in his relationships and builds them and nurtures them and does that kind of, back and forth with players to make sure that there's a two-way or bi-directional type street between him and the players. He already had called, and I'll say it now, I think by the time of the press conference, which was, just after he was announced, he was asked, when he's going to start reaching out to players. He'd already called every player outside of 4 that are on the current roster. So he clearly values players' opinions and feedback. I think he's basically, 5-6 years older than most of them.
That's pretty nuts. Once I started talking about his age, I'm like, could we grab a beer? with and and not just like, oh, he's the head coach. Like, no, we can just like see him at a bar. Like, this guy is not that far from our age, which is awesome, right? Because I do think that you need somebody that can also connect with these guys on a personal level. We've talked about, I think the chemistry with this team has kind of gone in waves. Where we are incredible. It's easy to have good chemistry when we're winning. Then we had a hard loss. We didn't really have it well with Cardinal. Then Olaf came in. You're like, all right, maybe this guy has it. But then obviously he didn't have the locker room whatsoever. And then you have it in there with Critch, where he really brought these guys back together. And Hack did the same thing when he was an interim. So I really do think, and you could see it in the press conference with him, this guy is just a very personable guy. He's a guy that wants to get to know you, and he really does care about those. It's not just a stat that he wants to throw out there that, like, oh, I was able to call everybody but 4, so yeah, I'm doing a great job already. Like, no, he actually cares and wants to meet these guys and understand them on a personal level, because if you don't have that, they're not going to want to play for you, and it's not going to show on the field either.
I agree. So I'll just quickly, Justin, let's cover some of the key takeaways that I had at least picked up from the press conference and watching this back. There's another thing that you will see on social media soon. There's definitely one thing that I picked up on, but let's talk about some of the qualitative around it. So obviously he comes from a winning background. He hasn't been, the guy in the chair for these wins and these trophies, but he has been in the room, right? Been at the table and supporting this in his own role. And they're hoping that he can surround himself with people and with current people that he's inheriting that he can wear off or rub off on them and make sure that we all kind of get that winning bug underneath us. Vision of the club, Justin, was mentioned a ton during these press conferences. I would love to see, recent documentation on what the vision is for us. I think if you asked me what the vision is, I asked you what the vision is, and we asked fans on the street what we think the vision of the club is, I think we'd all have very, very dramatically different answers. But that's part of the fun. Another thing that I called out here, Justin, was that stylistically, he was asked what he was going to impose on the pitch. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where he literally said, we'll see what we can do. And that's kind of referencing this season right now. It's going to be very much transition season. Picture it sort of a stabilization period where we're kind of in a roster entanglement where we don't really have much that we can do to support him at the exact moment, given where we're at with a lot of these deals and guaranteed years and money allocated to certain players that may not fit his style. So this year, I imagine will be very much a see what I can do to make the most out of this team that I have on with me right now, because it's not my own fingerprints yet. But over the longer term, again, be proactive on the ball, especially, and without the ball, press on the high end of the pitch, be on the front foot, be a team that comes to any sort of stadium and imposes yourself versus reacts or sort of, is the second mover in this. And his philosophy, he said, is very much rooted in clarity of roles and responsibilities. So hiring specialists, like not hiring, but bringing in players that can understand, have good IQs of their own, where they can understand exactly what's expected of them, know where to be, how to execute it, and also when they can play with that creativity and flexibility to expand outside of that as well. Because you don't want to be, a society or a culture where it's like, you got to do exactly what I'm telling you to do and nothing else. You want these guys to understand what's expected of them, but know when to rise above and to actually go do something that you might feel is right as well.
Yeah, so I think he's got a lot of holes to fill, and that's what you already talked about. And I think so does Corey Ray. Corey Ray joked about it when we were at the Jack Buck Awards, and he was like, "Yeah, now I just need to fill the rest of the holes. Like, I'm just going to do it in my first week." So we need to pump the brakes. Like, yes, we do have everybody now or not everybody, but I think probably depending on what they're going to do with the technical director standpoint, we do have what we need to be able to now sign some players. So Jake, let's do a quick look at what does our team look like heading into the holiday season, because I would be very surprised if you see any signings or trades or obviously trades cannot happen until January, any more signings before the new year. So right now we still have at least four available first team spots. Plus we also have 3 international spots that are available. Mm-hmm. And the main thing that you need to look at, I would say, in all of this is that we can still sign either one DP or one U22 and receive $2 million in GAM. Which we'll talk about a little bit more in GAM with how we already kind of used that from a sense in the MLS draft. But Jake, if you are Damet and Corey Ray, you're meeting together, you're shaking hands, and you're saying, all right, Corey Ray has already been in the weeds with this team, talking with Diego and the squad about Critchley, who we think we're looking at. What do you think step 1 is? And you're like, yeah, we both agree. We got to get this thing done first.
So you're saying just like a position?
Yeah, sorry. From a, I want to say from a player perspective. I mean, obviously, you
Yeah.
still have to work on King, Kess, Vollum, or Padelford. Figure out what we're doing with one of those three, or are you looking at an outside guy to bring in, hopefully, like a DP that would play a six role for us?
Yeah, I think a lot of this obviously will come with, he's going to have a period in the preseason of just, intense evaluation of, the tools that he has at his disposal. But I think it's pretty glaring. And we've talked about it with Mike, right, of where the gaps are. And they made as much of that comment during the press conference where, like, probably step one, Justin, is fill the roster holes. And that's not just with anyone, right? He wants to have his own imprint, which, by the way, he mentioned three key things that stick out to him from players. It's grit, it's their awareness and coachability, that soccer IQ, and their technical skills, obviously, what they bring to the table. So if I'm him and I'm kind of linking up, and we're obviously this has already begun, of course, this planning. But I mean, you're looking at you need another probably high level center back if it's not Kessler that you're bringing back. You obviously need a left back because we do not have one at the moment, an actual left back, and you definitely need a holding midfielder. Like those three things, Justin, are probably like those are if I'm going to talk to Santa and sit in that lap and give him my list of things I want for Christmas, those three are probably the highest priority in terms of like just straight up gaps that we do not have.
Yeah, and I would say, Jake, I also want to just be tentative here and remind people, not trying to bring bad juju into it, but you also can't assume that everybody that we have currently on the roster is going to be
Yep.
staying with the team. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Like, are there going to be some trades? Are there going to be some of these things that will be going on in January? So do not be surprised and don't be like, "Yep, we already have locks at these positions." I'd be very, very tentative, especially if that's something that we would get rid of a guy to bring in a six. We might need to get rid of like a right back or something along those lines. And then we're going to have another hole to fill, but then we're going to try to fill more of a spine from that set. So I think it is going to be something very important for those guys. I just don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of news on that in the next 2 weeks.
You might, right? And we'll talk about Super Draft here in a second, which I think kind of took aim at some of the gaps as well, at least in terms of profiles we're looking for. But I agree with you, Justin. I think this year, like right now in this off season, you might see some unpopular, fan moves, right? You might see some familiar faces, some favorites potentially, going an opposite direction to a different team or outbound in one way or another. But I think you could also see a lot more of that probably after this year as Damet kind of is able to get a year under his belt, see what these tools are at his disposal, and between him and Corey Ray again, because Corey Ray also inherited the situation. Like he didn't have a hand in a lot of these deals either. A lot of these guys are Carnell, Melberg era signings, right? And very, very different. Like we're moving way away from that with what Damet has said, what Corey Ray has said. So you can't fit, the square peg in the round hole. You can try as hard as you can, and you can maybe plug up for a certain chunk of the season and see what you can do to be competitive. But ultimately, this isn't going to work out, and it's going to take time to kind of untangle this mess that we're in. So I could see, over the next couple of years, Justin, maybe starting this year, yeah, there could be some fan letdown, some frustration on familiar faces, good players in our eyes that might go ultimately away from this club. And it's not because we don't value them. It's because they're not a fit for our current system, and maybe they would fit in better somewhere else. So brace for that. I think Nico Gioacchini was kind of a good example back then of everyone was a little bit up in the arms, like why? But look back on that, Justin. We came out on the top on that deal, and I'm obviously I root for the guy. I hope that he can kind of get that career, back on trajectory, which where he was going before. But we sold him high, and sometimes you have to do that on some of these guys. So it'll be a really interesting, I'd say 1-2 years on this turnaround, maybe even 3 on the project, but they're just kind of, they're hand tied at a certain point with this roster.
Yeah, they're hand tied, Jake, but I'd be very, very careful if I was them on who you choose to sell at a high note, because guess what? We're already kind of in a little bit of a turmoil, and the last thing you want to be doing is getting rid of one of the fan favorites on this team. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be some very difficult decisions. I personally would like to see our spine stay together, but there's only time will tell there. So it's going to be an interesting one for us. And Jake, we're going to have a guy that's been around for a while, no longer with us, helping make these decisions, as Hackworth is out as technical director, and he is now the head coach of Navy Soccer D1 program as well. So obviously he was the one that made a lot of the connections between the academy and City 2 into the first team. That is something that we hired Corey Ray to do. Obviously, that has a lot of his background and something that he is very strong in. But the question is for me, Jake, is like, how much was Hack really involved in some of these decisions on player signings and decisions on options before these guys came in? Obviously, Bürki as being a DP And also, guys, if you look at guys that are now out of the club completely, Rasmus Alms, Morales, Pedro, Watts, Wenzel, Jay Reed, Zielinski, obviously none of them are massive pieces as a part of the puzzle, but it is just taking pieces, a part of the puzzle away that you can no longer do something with. And now it's a guy that's no longer going to be with us. And then the next question on that, well, actually, I want to give a shout out to Jonathan for the comment here. Damet said in his press conference that Ray wasn't going to be looking to hire a technical director, rather hire a technical staff with a few different people in responsibilities to help fill that. That's because Corey Ray does know how to do a lot of that. So it is important to note that. Like, I don't know if we're going to just plug and play another technical director right in there. We're probably just going to hire other individuals to kind of help build that mold. But there's another name out there, Jake, in the organization that has not found a fit yet, and that's Critchley. And my thought process is, I originally was like, okay, he'll probably go back to the City 2 head coach role, but kind of a question that lingers in my mind is, why wouldn't that have already been named?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you think that you're bringing in, you already have Corey Ray as your sporting director, now you hire Damet as your head coach, you would think that'd be like, yep, we hired our head coach, now Critchley's going to be good with going back to City 2. Is he possibly not good with going back to that role? Does he think that he deserves a little bit more? Does he want to be in that not technical director role, but also a guy that would then be filling in on that small list of grouping guys that would be right next to Corey Ray and Damet? Or what are your thoughts on what Critch will be doing in the organization?
I think it's a great idea, right? I think if I'm David Critchley, me, and just solely if it was just City 2 they're offering me, I'd turn it down. You know, I don't want to go back to. I've already done that, right? I've already done that. I've now coached a first team for the better part of a season, and you know, I think you could color that performance somewhere in the realm of like the 4 to 6 range on a scale, right? It wasn't awful. It wasn't great. It was way more on the neutral side with some highs and lows. So if I'm him, I want more. Like, I want to keep advancing in my career. I'm also a young coach as well. People forget. So I think, Justin, if they're coming to him knowing that technical director as a position is sort of going away and they're going to kind of reorg how they think about the technical department, and Corey Ray will have a hand in that. By the way, so will Damet. Both these guys come from youth, and not youth necessarily, but they've both spent significant time with non-first team organizations, right? Like Corey Ray with Columbus Crew 2 and what he built there, signing some really young, you know, big, high ceiling talent. And, you know, developing them, working with them on that. Corey Ray did that. Same with Damet. I mean, obviously, you started the U12, U13s in France. Like, he's seen development. So both these guys come with that frame of mind. I think I agree with the idea of maybe seeing if what you can do without this role and just building out those capabilities. But they all report in through Corey Ray, most likely. Damet probably a part of that. But I agree. If you're Critchley, this role where you could coach as well as contribute in a technical aspect as well, and be a part of his staff and see what it's like to be a part of, you know, the new world city here. Again, I don't think, if no one's coming knocking at his door, which I'd be surprised if he hasn't had any suitors. I bet there have been some, maybe not at the MLS level, but at USL, at MLS Next Pro, what have you, or even from overseas. David Critchley's got to look out for David Critchley. And I think if he's got a combination of City 2 head coach offer and a technical role as well, so a sort of dual role with this program now, I think that would be more enticing for him, and I think he'd be valuable in it because we know that he's got a great cultural sort of mindset. We know that he can inspire players, he can get them motivated. We know that he can put good products in the field as well. There are definitely weaknesses as well, but there's weaknesses in a lot of different people's games. So I think I like where they're going. They did say in the press conference they're talking with him right now. Haven't heard that. That was obviously over a week ago, so we'll see. We haven't heard anything in the latest. I don't know whether to believe that's good or bad news, but I do agree with a desire to keep him with the organization.
Absolutely. I think one that we already talked about from a chemistry perspective, that guy brought these guys together. Regardless, it was a very tough season last year, but imagine trying to pick up a team after what Olaf Melberg left them with. After already then coming off an interim coach with Hack and prior with Carnell losing the locker room. It has been an absolute roller coaster for some of those guys in that locker room from a playing perspective, a teaming perspective, being in a city that they don't have any family in. Like, this is huge. And I feel like Critch really brought them back together, and we need to keep someone like that in the organization. So I don't care where they put him, and I would like to keep him wherever they can fit him and where he would like to be. I'm a little nervous that he wants to continue to progress in his career, which I would absolutely respect and understand. But please, that's on my wish list, Jake, for Christmas. Keep David Critchley in the organization. So, Jake, I think that kind of rounds out the new hire from a coaching perspective. One more thing I want to talk about, but just a nice little highlight for anybody that's been already nervous about the DP signing of Roman Bürki and whatnot. But he got a nice little award from, what was it, the MLS Player Association?
That's right.
And so ultimately, they had a vote inside of all the players throughout the league and who is the toughest goalie to beat. And Roman Bürki was number one from all the players, in front of Hugo Lloris on LAFC. This is an awesome, awesome honor from him because, in my opinion, Jake, whenever you see these voting, like we talked about the voting for MVP and things of that nature, I like this a lot more than the media vote because this truly shows you the guys on the field who they truly respect and feel is one of the best in the game. And that speaks volumes to Mr. Roman Bürki after everybody's saying, oh, he's on the decline with his age and whatnot. So huge shout out to him and getting this award.
Yeah, I think it's cool too because you also look at the list. It reveals there's two things, right? There's why is Lloris in this list out? Because I don't think he's top 5, maybe even you can go top 10 goalie with him in the league. Christian Kalina, definitely a very, very strong goalie, so I can see that. But Bürki up here, there's been a lot of conversation, right? You don't give him the DP deal. He's aging. He definitely regressed statistically this last year after having an incredible year in 23 and sort of a mid in 2024. What's left for him? And even if he regresses, Justin, the idea that in 2025, at his right mid to late 30s, that Roman Bürki is still, I'm going to go ahead and just recolor this to be the most feared goalkeeper in MLS. That's something to be proud of. That's something that you can't really quantify, right? And it may not show up on the stats, but the idea that if I'm a forward, I'm a winger, I'm a midfielder, and the ball drops to me, and I'm looking between the goal and me, and in between the goal and me is Roman Bürki, that little half doubt definitely creeps into your mind. Like, I need to put this where grandma keeps the cookies, because otherwise he is going to swipe this away from me and I will not score. But as a goalkeeper, that mental edge is almost half the battle. And the fact that he's living rent free in most of this league's head, courtesy of this vote, who is the toughest goalie to beat, even though statistically that wasn't the case last year, that says a lot. Like, that's a personality that is like, that's a brand that he preaches now. Like, that is the guy that he is. He's scary for attackers. So I think it's really, and I think it means a lot more than just like what we give it credit for.
Right. And if you look at this, like Roman Bürki's received a number of accolades that are much more impressive and probably mean more to him. But it is a nice little bump in the offseason, right? When a guy, he's kind of just off right now doing vacation. It's like, wow, I'm still very much respected in this league and in the soccer world as a whole. So I just want to give him a quick shout out there. Huge thanks to Roman Bürki for everything that he's done for the team. And Jake, I want to give also a huge shout out and a thanks to our presenting sponsor, Hoffman Brothers. For anybody that is living underneath of a rock, or you're just like, oh, it's winter, I'm not going outside. Yeah, we're going to be breaking records. It is going to be 62 today, 65 on Wednesday, and then Christmas Day, 63, and then Friday, 69. Nice. It's going to be so hot. That is not good on your AC, and because people are probably going to be flipping their AC on. I'm not kidding. It's once you hit it seems like, 69 degrees, that seems cool. No, when it's been literally freezing and we had that snow dump, that is going to feel like summer heat to people in St. Louis. So if you haven't already, you need to call Hoffman Brothers at 314-664-3011 or visit them at hoffmanbros.com. And Jake, or if you don't even want to do that, you need to go check these guys out on Instagram. They have 4,900 followers. How many heating and cooling companies, especially local, do you know that has that kind of following? It's because they put out some incredible content and some tips and tricks. This one, honestly, Jake, kind of grossed me out when I looked at, let's get your dishwasher ready for the holidays. I didn't realize that I had to do clean this little filter. Did you even know that you had a filter? I just thought that when you buy a dishwasher, it's like, oh yeah, that thing will just continue to run. No, you need to be doing your own services. And yeah, probably maybe I should know some of this stuff. Not a homeowner, still renting from Danny. But I think it's important to know for everybody else. So call Hoffman Brothers at 314-664-3011. They are white glove service.
Oh my God. I hope everyone was tuning in the video there, because Justin was showing a reel where the dishwasher is cleaning the dishwasher. It's a weird concept, right? It's like, how does the cleaner keep clean? So Yeah, I know you got to keep your dishwasher clean somehow. I also recognize I wasn't me, by the way. Maggie caught that for us. But same thing with like your washer and your dryer. Like there, you got to keep those clean. And it's funny to think about. These are the things that keep other things clean, but I got to keep these things clean as well themselves. But I digress.
Well, Jake, that's the one thing is like I feel like I always go to Hoffman Brothers for HVAC. Like, no, it's plumbing, electrical, appliances. Like these guys do it all. So if you guys have anything going out over the holidays, you probably got a little bit of holiday extra cash. Call these guys. They'll be at your doorstep as quick as possible. Or you can do that home protection plan and you'll be jumped right up to the top of the list as well. I just can't get over it. Like this is something that I love. Just it's so easy to talk about.
Talk about jumping up lists, Justin. The final topic that we have before we get into a little bit of closeout for the show here is the Super Draft, the MLS Super Draft, the greatest time of the year for everyone in soccer. Say that very tongue in cheek has come and gone for MLS. It was wrapped up here just over a week ago now, or just about a week ago now, and City's got 3 new players to show for it. But Justin, before I go into our selections, we have great memories of this happening. And was that 2022 December? I believe it was. Yeah. We were invited to the draft party. We were on cam during it. So Justin's showing that right now with Lutz on the mics as they were streaming this. And again, streaming it was not, I don't even believe it broadcasted this year as well. That's a little bit of a concern, like a gap. Like I know the draft for us, like if you think about drafts and their level of importance for major professional sports in the United States, because I don't think anyone else drafts in soccer outside the United States, probably the least important out of any of the drafts, because even your round oneers, are not guaranteed a roster spot on MLS rosters. Like this is, by the way, though, you can get great players during this time as well. Like Corey Ray and the Columbus Crew got Patrick Schulte during this time, ended up being their starting goalkeeper. Max Arston, who's now on the U.S. men's national team radar and probably going to be in the World Cup. So I'm not saying there's not value in it, but it's nowhere near like the guarantee that other drafts are.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they wouldn't stream it. When you think about how big this is for like the NFL or the NBA, and Jake, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, but I'm going to play it. Like everybody knows what that sound means, and it's awesome. So why the MLS just thought like, oh yeah, it literally just kept. I looked for like 30 minutes trying to find this. I was on Twitter or X, on Instagram, trying to find anything, and all they sent was a link for you to follow along, and it's essentially just an article where then if you hit refresh, it would populate who got drafted where for each team. And I think that is extremely disappointing by the MLS. You want to grow as a league? Put this thing on YouTube at least. Like, is it really that hard? And it would also help understand for people like, where are these guys coming from? Why are they getting picked to these teams? And the one that really threw me off, Jake, and it would have been great to have an explanation, is why the Colorado Rapids had to draft their own MLS Next Pro player in what, like the 6th overall pick? It was absurd. And so I had to do my own deep dive into this. And it was ultimately because he did not qualify as a homegrown player. So the key thing with Mamadou Dilo Diop was that he's playing for the Rapids too, but it doesn't make him a homegrown player just for playing for them. Homegrown status is earned through the club's youth academy and specific developmental years. Diop joined the Colorado through MLS Next Pro and not the academy pathway, and he did it too late to qualify for being a homegrown. So his MLS Next Pro contract does not automatically give them the rights to have him as a player on that team for the first team. So Colorado didn't have control of his MLS future unless they drafted him. So just an entire nuance there. But if you're on Twitter and on Instagram and X, people are like, this is so messed up. The way that the MLS is set up, it would have been great for someone like Taylor Twellman or any of those guys to be able to explain this to me. Like, why did Colorado have to draft somebody that's already in their organization? Yeah. It's just a complete missed opportunity by the MLS.
Yeah, I agree. It's again, we just talked about the product and how important that was and how great it was for the MLS Cup final. And then I know MLS Cup final, MLS Super Draft, very different things, but you'd like to see a level of consistency in how we treat the product, right? And also for these guys getting drafted, like that's kind of crappy. You know what I mean? Like if I'm Zach Lillington and I'm the 7th overall, I worked my ass off for this. And like no one's even going to see it. We'll just hear about it on social media or YouTube. I'm not saying that's all what it's for, but if you want to, put your elbows out and wiggle your way into, being a top 10 soccer league in the world, top 15, top 20, whatever your goals are as this league, you've got to act like it. You know what I mean? Like this is something that it's small, but it can go further. And I think in the future, Justin, I would be, if this is what's going on in the next, I'll give them 2 years. I would be shocked. I would be shocked because they're thinking about revamping the college system. We've talked about that a little bit, with these mega conferences that are more based on your accolades of recent and whatnot. If you're churning out, the goal, right, is to connect the college pathway a lot more firmly with the professional pathway. And if you're doing so, you should see more college players actually getting blooded professionally. Whereas right now, it kind of feels like a little bit of a lottery at times. So if that actually ends up happening, you're going to have to treat this draft more seriously and give it more coverage because it deserves it, right? Because we should be building or at least firming up that pathway. If there's more players that are going big because of it, they deserve to be treated like that. And we deserve to put that on a pedestal and broadcast it and give it a little spruce up.
That's the tough part about this. Sorry, I was messing with this hat. This thing is hilarious. And that's what's frustrating to me is it really doesn't give the guys the diligence or the credit they deserve. Like these guys are working to become a professional athlete and a professional soccer player for their entire careers. And then guess what? I get to find out about it by refreshing a article on MLSsoccer.com or MLS.com, whatever you want to call it. So sorry. Off my soapbox, let's give them the credit they deserve, Jake. In the first round, City went in the 7th overall picked Zach Lillington, a defender out of UC Davis. So with that pick, he is a 6'4", 190-pound defender. And this guy it's defender is what they put on there. This guy is a utility dude. I was pretty pumped when I started diving into this. And not a generation Adidas, which is also another nuance in this. So he's not guaranteed a first team spot, but I would love to see this guy stay in the organization. He's versatile. He's played multiple roles for the team along the back line and into the midfield. And he ended up actually leading UC Davis in shots this year with 60 shots, 24 of them landing on goal in his senior season at UC Davis. Yeah, that's that right back or right center back that they have on this team. He earned multiple all-conference honors and became the highest MLS Super Draft in UC Davis program history. So huge shout out to Zach Lillington. I think he's going to be a great fit for this team.
Speaking of huge, he's 6'4". Never hurts to have another big fella on the roster, especially now that you've lost one as of right now with Henry Kessler. But like you said, he's so versatile, and I love defenders that can also kind of venture forward as well, because that's where the modern game's going, right? Like you can't just be, at least I'm not saying can't, but you're kind of seeing not an extinction, but a endangered status for, you're just true defenders, right? Like that's just what they do. They're just brutes. Like kind of think of Tim Parker, but take away or strip away like his comfortability with the ball at his feet as well, which even he was known for. You're just true brutes. Those are kind of a dime a dozen now. Like you're having to make sure that your defenders have great IQ with the ball, can connect passes, can be really almost the focal point or the beginning of your attack as well. And this is a guy that can do that. And he's done that with UC Davis. So I think that's why they're getting him, is he has that versatility both to play on the back line, to also step into midfield, to venture forward and see if he can create danger as well. I don't think that's going to hurt us at all to have a profile like that. So whether he ends up, as a center back or a hybrid, sort of maybe 6 for us in the short term, he's depth and cover in that position, of which we need both, right? We don't have enough center backs, and I'll actually say enough good quality center backs right now. And we don't have a 6. So he kind of fits both of those. I'm not saying he's starting game 1 or even game 10, but he's a guy that fits or profiles into those categories. And he had accolades and great reviews from scouts across the board on this. So I'm really excited about that pick. I think it's very strong.
Yeah. And then next, Jake, was at first I was like, whoa, what's going on? But after diving in, makes a little bit more sense as well. Round 2, 37th overall, Andrew Samuels, goalkeeper out of Princeton. Where he had an outstanding career already so far and still a little bit more to go. So he has a great reputation there in shot stopping. He was a big player as well. Ivy League goalkeepers are often praised for their command in the box and decision-making. Obviously, this dude is extremely intelligent. But here's the caveat on this, dude. He will be able to go back to Princeton because he is a junior. And so what the MLS draft has that is different than these other ones is that we grabbed his rights, but he's going to be going back to Princeton for his senior year. And then so it makes a lot more sense when I saw this. I'm like, why are we grabbing a goalkeeper when we just signed Roman Bürki as a DP? Then you also have Ben Lute as a backup and Christian Oliveras, who is also a backup competing with Ben Lute. And I think Christian's only 23 years old. So like, what are we doing with all this? It's like, no, let this guy grow one more year. where he's not taking up a roster spot. There's no cap hit for us. So there's nothing to worry about that. He's going to grow a little bit more. He's going to be extremely intelligent. And then next year, after Bürki's done one more year, he's going to be able to come in, learn underneath of those guys, and then move forward and likely be a City 2 guy, get some more minutes, and then grow into be his full potential mid to late 20s. I think it's a great pick for us to just really plant that seed for a future goalkeeper.
I agree, Justin. And Princeton, by the way, is a really good soccer program. People kind of look at the Ivy League and laugh, like if they're great at school, not really at sports usually. But Princeton is a really good program in soccer. Guess how many goals he conceded in Ivy League play this year?
6.
Zero. Not
Oh,
one. Not one goal given up in Ivy League play. He allowed 7 overall this season. So he posted a .37 goals against, which is unbelievable for any goalkeeper. He also had 3 PK saves. So talk about a guy that can deliver in big moments, that can make the big saves, known for his shot stopping ability. What I don't see here, Justin, is the footwork and his ability to play with his feet very consistently and comfortably. And maybe that's what we want to see him more work on or kind of develop in his time, because we don't need him right now, like you mentioned. But a guy that's definitely got a great skill set, showing it at a high level program at Princeton, and also 6'5", big goalkeepers. I mean, that's kind of what you got to be, unless you are one of the most technical, both shot stoppers and ball players. Like, you got to be in the mid to low, at least 6 feet tall, because otherwise you're going to be overlooked.
yeah. If honestly, Jake, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Ben Lute. Probably not the best with his feet, but guess what? We have one of the best goalkeeper trainers with their feet in Tim Kelly. This is a guy that if you want to teach anybody anything that comes from his feet, he's talked about it with Patrick Schulte and what TK did at Gallagher. That's something that you need these guys. They have the shot stopping ability. That's why they're goalies. Tim can actually train them to teach them this. So, and then the last pick, which was a surprise to us, Jake, was a second round as well, 43rd overall, Cooper Forcinelli. I absolutely love that name, and I would love to see this guy get some minutes solely for the announcement. But it was a surprise pick because this was not our draft pick. We sent $50,000 in GAM to Orlando City for this pick, and it really tells me that you have Corey Ray and team doing some deep dive and like, we want to grab this guy. It was not a guy that is like, oh, we did our 2 picks, we're good in this draft. No, this is a box-to-box guy that could ultimately grow into be a first-team player for us. So obviously I want to pump the brakes. We have a lot of guys when you look at like a Joey Solinsky and things along that nature that we then drafted and have not really panned out. I think this guy has a great chance to work his way up with City 2 and get some real first-team minutes for what he has done when he was at Xavier University.
Yeah, shout out to Xavier. I got my master's there, so I have a little bit of a soft spot for the Musketeers. But he's also a Kansas guy. He grew up in Olathe, so he's from Kansas. Knows the region definitely a little bit more, and he's a baller, dude. I mean, he's a Big East Offensive Player of the Week this year. He was on the first team All Big East. Like, he's a strong player, and again, another bigger guy, 6'1" in the midfield. So I'm kind of seeing where we're going, and maybe with a little more physicality to our game, but buffing up the midfield, even with the draft pick, we did trade up to go get this one too. So like, this is something that I think there was a little more intention behind when the opportunity came, and they went for it because he's an attack-minded player. Like you said, he can play between the lines. He's got that box-to-box mentality, but he's got that creative and sort of flair, a little bit of sauce to him as well, where he can make that final pass or like the pre-assist pass as well. So, a lot of this you see on paper, you see at the collegiate level, it doesn't all translate, right? We know that. We've seen a bunch of picks come through and they didn't work out for us. Like, think about a guy like Owen O'Malley, who we were really high on after the draft and then never really saw him obviously break in. I do think right now with this new leadership, Corey Ray's new approach, they're letting data lead a lot of decisions, or at least inform a lot of decisions. And all 3 of these guys tracked well when it comes to data. So you're hoping that you might, you may not hit on all of them, but if you hit on one of these and it happened in the super draft, there's not much better value you're going to get in any other, acquisition or deal in US soccer. So I like the draft picks. And again, they're in positions of need, maybe not so much goalkeeper, Justin, but, with the center back 6 type of versatile defender in Lillington, and then Forcellini with this kind of box to box or attacking midfielder mindset, 2 things that we desperately need. And if they're not going to be the guy, that's fine, but at least they can be groomed to be a guy or rotate.
Exactly. And I think this is one where, again, when you're trying to make these picks and we have a guy like Corey Ray who knows the route from a MLS Next Pro, I'll even go down to Academy, but MLS Next Pro, which is where a lot of these draft picks will ultimately start, into the first team. That is a strong pathway for these guys. And it's going to be really just taking them under the wing and saying, hey, guys, you're the young guys. We're going to bring you in. Some of you might have a chance to have an immediate start. If not, I'm going to show you the path on how you get to be a true professional. And that's where I get very excited when you think about Damet and Corey Ray. But Jake, you know what I'm also very excited about? DraftKings Sportsbook. We've teamed up with them, and we are proud to have them as a sponsor. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 200 in bonus bets if your bet cashes. Yes, 5 to 200. I don't know anywhere else where you can invest money and turn that around that quickly. And guess what? All you have to do is just have your bet win for $5. You get $200 in bonus bets. You sign up with code BWSTL as a new customer, and you can bet $5 on any of these upcoming matchups. Jake, it is December 23rd, time of recording. Yes, we have a huge lineup of games. You got bowl games coming up, college hoops. You've got on Christmas Day alone, you've got 3 NFL games, 5 NBA games, and then you go into Saturday, and we've got, I think, 7+ EPL games right after the holidays. This is the time to sign up. You guys already know that we've been talking about it. It used to be that you could sign up and get $300 in bonus bets. Now it's been a couple weeks. It's down to 200. I'm telling you, don't wait for the city season to start. This is the time to get this free bonus bets and this free cash from DraftKings. Sign up, use code BWSTL today. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Love it. Love it, Justin. Well, let's break into the final thing for us. So, it's the 23rd. By the way, for everyone celebrating the holidays here and that already celebrate the holidays, we wish you a very merry for all of your holidays, whether that's Christmas, whether that's Kwanzaa, whether that's been Hanukkah. We hope everyone's been enjoying some great downtime with family, friends, and reflecting on another year in the books here as we almost turn the page into the new year. And in that vein, Justin, we'll be taking a little break here as well to spend some time with our family and friends during this time, and crossing our fingers that nothing huge happens that would pull us away from that. But if it does, we'll gauge. But we'll definitely be back with you all here in the new year to break down all the latest news, whatever comes of it. And stay tuned, too, on social media. We're not going away from there. You'll still see memes. You'll still see GIFs. You'll still see funny stuff. And especially look for one coming up here soon from the press conference. But, we'll be on our grind, but in a little bit different way. So you won't see our familiar faces probably for at least a week or two or so as we kind of rein in everything new and plan for a fresh new season of ball watching and for City as well.
Yeah, we've got some exciting stuff coming up in 2026. We've got some fun interviews that we're planning. We're going to do something big for the World Cup as well. So stay tuned for all of this. We'll be dropping some announcements and some tidbits here and there, some breadcrumbs, but this is far from a downtime, especially for this City team, as you've seen what they've done. But yeah, Jake and I just need a little bit of a breather. It's the holidays. I think you guys need to as well. Please enjoy and stay safe this holiday season. Say hi to everyone and your families. And I want to give a big shout out to Jake as well for, one, getting this whole podcast started, but then two, Jake, now that we have hit our goal for Hope for the Holidays, we have raised over $150,000 in 3 years for head and neck cancer at Sightman Cancer Center. It's insane. It gives me chills when I think about that. That's something that I never thought that this would kind of take off and evolve into. And it's my favorite thing that we do every year. So I want to give a huge shout out again to all of our local vendors and everybody that was able to attend this past Saturday. Hope for the holidays. It was an awesome, awesome time.
No, shout out to you as well, man. Takes two to tango. And yeah, again, for anyone that hasn't been still, like we'll push it again next year, but this is Justin and I's like baby. The Hope for the Holidays is like, ball watching is so special, obviously, to us, and doing this is like our passion, right? But giving back in that way is such a cool thing, and to be there in the moment, it's really hard to put into words with what we're doing there. But you can get close to it. We'll put out the recap video, and we'll share some socials on how things went and what is actively now being done at Sightman Cancer Center with donations and support from people like you all. So we obviously thank you all once again, and know that it is making a difference. This is a battle. You all know how cancer goes. Probably feel it in your family or friends one way or another. Just unfortunately, that's how it goes. But you can do your best to be a part of that change, whether that's not with a family or friend, or you want to just support by volunteering or donating here. All of it makes a difference, and we need as much help as possible. Obviously, it's crazy prevalent, and all support goes a super long way. So, no, what a year, Justin. It's nice to wrap it up on that high and hopeful notes. And yeah, I'm hoping this is a vibe, Justin, we can carry into the new year. I think we all need a little bit of positivity, something to at least be hopeful for, right? It may not be the finished product, but it's something that's getting closer.
Yeah, and huge thank you as well to all of our listeners. We have over 100 people in here right now live, and we want to thank all of you guys again. We can't be doing what we're doing without you guys. So thank you all again for another incredible year, another tough year for City. But I'm being serious. I'm actually extremely hopeful for this next year, and we'll be able to talk a lot more in detail for this for the upcoming thing. So thank you guys very, very much, and appreciate everything that everybody does for us.
Awesome. Well, in the meantime, everyone enjoy the holidays with you and yours. Wishing you a restful and warm holiday season, and we'll talk to you all in the new year. In the meantime, all for City.
All for City.